This is the work. This is the work that will change your entire lineage. What you want is not to heal. What you want is what healing gets you. Because healing is just the vehicle towards what it is we actually want. Which for, let's just say in general terms, what we really want is unconditional love. Because we did not receive that growing up. Truly, like true unconditional love. Your parents had some condition because they weren't raised with unconditional love that created that conditional love for you. And unconditional love will lead to joy. It leads to abundance. It leads to peace. It leads to freedom. And freedom is the big word here. Because what healing really does is it brings us into unconditional love, which brings us into joy, abundance, peace, and freedom. And freedom is also created through, well, I'm going to kind of like bring it here. Acceptance. Can't spell today. Acceptance, because when you can accept a situation, accept yourself, accept the world, that's freedom. As well as authenticity. Because to be in your authenticity is to be free from the judgment of yourself and others. That's true freedom. It's not just, oh, I can do what I want, where I want, whenever I want. True, actual freedom comes from acceptance, and it comes from authenticity. And that's the freedom that we all want. Freedom from the limitation of our own past and our own conditioning. True, actual, inner freedom. Because you could have all the money in the world, you could have this financial freedom, but you're not free from the stress you're experiencing. You're not free from the validation you're trying to receive from social media, or the money you're making, or from other people. You're not free from a lack of joy. You're not free from the conditions you've put on yourself to receive love. That's not freedom. That's just another box, another jail cell that you put yourself in. It's maybe just a bit bigger, so you're not really aware. Right? It's like instead of being in a small little cage, you're like now in a zoo. You're still in a, you see? You're still in a cage. So healing is just a vehicle to get to unconditional love for ourselves, which creates joy, abundance, peace, freedom, acceptance, and authenticity. And what I would kind of coin this as is also embodied love. And we can put a little self here. Embodied self-love is the goal. Healing just brings us into embodied self-love, which is a state of unconditional love for ourselves, over pouring out into the world with joy, abundance, peace, freedom from acceptance and authenticity being natural states, right? It's something that we just are because we've done the healing work, and we're not getting stuck in a healing loop. We're using healing as the vehicle to get to here, because it's difficult to get into these states and stay in those states. You've probably been in a state of joy. I've done Molly. Maybe you've done Molly. We know what that feels like. You've likely been in states of peace as well, and states of abundance, states of love, states of acceptance and authenticity, and maybe moments where you felt free. And then things started to happen. And so let's talk about what those things really, truly are. And so healing is about addressing your trauma. And we all experience trauma, because what trauma really actually is trauma is essentially just stored emotions. Or another word for that, we could just use emotions equal energy. So trauma is really just stored emotions in our body and in our mind. So healing is just about addressing our trauma, which is really just a different word for trauma, if you don't like that word, is just energy. It's stored energy in the mind and body. And now this will manifest itself in some different ways. But before we go into that, we need to understand one main thing when it comes to trauma. There's two things to look at here. There is big T trauma and little t trauma. It's a bulky little t, you know what I'm saying? So that pretty much almost looks like a cross. Okay, that's better. So big T trauma is going to be some kind of abuse. You grew up in a household, you were likely hit, screamed at, thrown around, and also more intense traumas that we can obviously all know. Sexual abuse, physical abuse, other different kinds of mental abuse, like also trauma that is very intense. Like if you were in a cult or something, or you were in some kind of intense accident, like those can be big trauma experiences. But big T, how we normally look at that is something really intense, really dark. If you heard it, you'd be like, whoa, that is effed up. That's usually what I regard as big T, whereas little trauma, little t, is going to be parents that weren't really emotionally available, parents that maybe neglected you a bit, parents that maybe weren't around that often, parents that praised you for your performance, and so you learn to people please, or just learn that the more I work, the more I'll receive validation and love. So it was parents that didn't meet your needs. I would also say big T can also be like your parents got divorced. Like that's traumatic for a child, and just that dynamic, right? A chaotic environment. Little t is just your needs didn't get met, and most of our needs didn't get met. So we all have trauma, we all have stored emotions and energy that manifest in our body and mind. And so it manifests in the body as our nervous system reactions of fight, flight, fawn, and freeze. 4 F's of the nervous system, right? When our nervous system is in a sympathetic or a parasympathetic, that is how that trauma is being revealed. So normally, if we have a lot of trauma, our body is going to reflect a lot of sympathetic symptoms. And that means we're going to manifest it into these 4 F's: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Body doesn't know how to take in all of this information, or it is reflecting back moments that happened in the past and it's being reactive to that. For whatever reason, the nervous system is signaling to our body that this is similar to that event, and so it doesn't feel safe, and that's where we're in a sympathetic state. And the sympathetic state is going to be these 4 F's. It's a high stress state. You don't want to stay there. We can induce it with doing certain things, like when you do an ice bath or when you do holotropic breath work. We're inducing a sympathetic state, but in a different way. So the parasympathetic is what we want to get to help heal the body more, because this is rest and digest. In other terms, it is just a more relaxed state. The body's saying we are safe, we are okay, and so the more we do practices that can help us get into a parasympathetic state, like deep and slow breathing, like nidra yoga, actually the effect that happens after you do cold plunges, that's why it can really be good for you, because even though it goes into sympathetic, it goes right down into parasympathetic. As well as sauna, going into nature, journaling, meditating, a lot of these things and practices that can bring us into a parasympathetic state that allows our body to actually heal. And we want to get into the body because, again, energy is stored in the body, and that's what trauma is. It can also manifest in our mind. And so let me just get that there, and it manifests in our mind as our identity. Now, I will say identity is going to manifest in your body as well. Your posture, how you carry yourself, your body language, everything is going to manifest as your identity. So identity does reflect into your body, but I'm saying specifically here, it reflects the trauma in your mind, because your identity is a culmination of a lot of things. It is your beliefs, which is pretty much just thought patterns. It is the stories you tell yourself, about life. It is going to be your habits, which reflect your identity. It is going to be your perspectives. And it's going to just be your life. I know that's a little sloppy, but bear with me. So your identity is your beliefs, your thought patterns, your stories, your habits, your perspectives, and just your life overall is reflecting your identity. And that was shaped from your trauma, which we can be very clear about is stemming from your past. Yes, if you have not done the healing work, truly, not just talk therapy, talking about somatics, talking about parts work, talking about shadow work, talking about going into the depths of your being, the depths of yourself, reshaping your identity, going back in time, realizing who you are right now was shaped in the past. And you can decide if you want to continue to be the person you are today. And so your trauma also stems from your past. So your past is affecting your body and mind in the present as your identity, which is how you show up with your beliefs, your thought patterns, your stories, your habits, your perspectives, and just your life overall. It will also show up in your body as your nervous system, whether it's in a sympathetic state leading to freeze, fawn, fight, or flight, different reactions, or it can lead to your parasympathetic. That's what we want to focus on, rest and digest through the multiple different things that we talked about. And so when it comes to your past, an important modality to understand, you can get rid of this for the sake of this, is two things. I'm going to go up this way and this way. One is, that is not the right thing. Give me a second. Is feeling. Letting yourself feel the emotions, which is energy. So letting yourself feel the energy that's stuck in your body. You can identify it. Usually it feels like a knot or a tightness or a ball, usually here in one of the 7 chakra lines, right? So we have our root chakra. You might feel it here. You might feel it in your legs. You might feel it in your hips, right? That's going to be where your root chakra is. You might feel it in your sacral. So you might feel it in your genitals, your hips, your lower belly, like right here in this area, right? Also your stomach area, right? You might feel it in your sacral. You might feel it in your solar plexus, right at the top, right at the bottom of your chest, and right at the top of your stomach. So like right here, where you feel that knot, you feel that tightness, you feel that energy, that fire. You might feel it in your heart, right in the middle of your chest. You might feel that tightness, right? You might feel the heaviness. You might feel it in your throat, and it feeling closed off, like you can't get your words out. You might feel it in your head, right? Reflecting your third eye, right? Where it's just tightness in the head, tension in the head. Maybe you feel it above you, right? In your crown. So the 7 chakras do reflect into the healing process, not if you believe in chakras or not. It's just think energy centers. Energy centers that trauma is going to be stored into. It can be stored into your shoulders, it can be stored into your neck, stored into your back, right? So this also gets into fascia release, into you stretching, rolling out, exercise, and how that can release trauma because it's stored emotions. Having certain deep tissue massage. But beyond that, feeling the things that you're avoiding, feeling the emotions that are actually coming up, feeling the fear, feeling the shame, feeling the guilt, feeling the anger, but feeling it without it having to right away express itself. I'm talking about sitting with the energy, noticing that it's not just an emotion, but it's an energy that's inside your body. And that's where David Hawkins' book of letting go really comes into this of like you feel to heal to let it go. And so one of the things I do is I'm in that process of feeling the emotion and I'm imagining the energy is going up those energy centers and out. And so that could look like expression, where you express the anger, or you express the fear, or you express the shame. And in that way, feeling is healing because you need to actually feel it. If you don't feel it, it's just going to stay stuck. Because what happened in the past was that there was a part of you that experienced this trauma, big T or little t. They didn't know how to process it because their body was in a high sympathetic state. And so what they learned was safe was either fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. They learned that response in their body, and they didn't learn how to get out of it. So then the body locked that in energetically because then it was rooted by a story with our identity of how the trauma shaped us. And now we are living from our past and not our current reality. And that is why you're not experiencing the joy that you want, the abundance that you want, the peace, the freedom, acceptance, authenticity, and you're not experiencing embodied self-love. And that's reflecting in your health, in your wealth, in your relationships. And so Feeling is that's a terrible star, but feeling is one of the number one processes to actually heal your past. The other one is parts work. It's something I do with my clients, and parts work basically shows that there are multiple different parts of ourselves, and those parts reflect different emotions that we experience. There's an angry part, there's a sad part, there's an anxious part, there's an abundant part, there's a loving part. There is a part, there are multiple parts within all of us. And when we realize that, we realize those multiple parts show up in different ways. They show up as safety mechanisms that was learned in the past. And they're staying there because we haven't gone back in time to heal them. And so parts work is also time travel. I'll make a video more specifically on parts work so we can talk in depth about that so you can understand it. And parts work is about traveling back in time to meet this part that's stuck in that memory. You at 6 years old, watching your parents fight, maybe your dad flipping a table, and you're confused. You don't know what's going on, but you're taking in all of that energy. Right? Because when you're a child, you're like an open vessel. You're like, your body and nervous system is very aware of everything. It's trying to figure out the world. And if it's figuring out chaos is normal, and it's not getting the natural process to learn to move through that and create safety again, it creates safety through the part and through the mechanism that we just all talked about. And so parts work is about time traveling back in time to meet that part and give that part love. That's the best heart I got right now. And by doing that, we get into a state of love, which brings us closer to that unconditional love, because that's what we're giving ourselves. That's what we didn't get. That's what you didn't get when you were growing up. You didn't get that love when you were in that moment. That's what you needed. You needed safety. And what is love? Love is safety. Love is nurturing. Love is kind. Love is safety. Love is acceptance. Love is validating you, hearing you, and seeing you. Meeting your basic needs is love. And meeting them without needing anything else is unconditional love. And that's what you needed in those moments. And that's what you didn't get because your parents didn't do the work, because their parents didn't do the work, and so on and so on. And what you're experiencing right now and what you'll need to move through to get to this life that you want to get to is going to be breaking those generational chains, because that is true freedom. Healing is your process to true freedom, because healing is not what you're looking for. All of this is what you're looking for. Healing is just a vehicle, and it happens through all of this. So if you have questions, put them in the comments below. We can discuss them. I can make more videos. If you have specific questions on specific parts of this, we could do one on the nervous system. We could do one on identity. We could do one specifically on your past and how that shaped you, even more in depth. We can go into parts work, of course, and we can go into how do we actually access these parts as well. But the first thing, we can't just get here. We can't just get here first. This is important. We can't bypass and try to get to love and light and yeah, I'm unconditionally loving, but I haven't actually gone back in time and worked through all the things that I've actually gone through. I actually haven't done that. And so why am I keep sabotaging myself when, I'm focusing so much on love and light? It's because you haven't confronted the parts of you that needs to be confronted, which leads to one extra little thing, which is shadow work. Shadow work, which is a part of this whole thing. Shadow work is also parts because you're meeting your shadow. Shadow work is part of the unconscious. And all of this is your unconscious. That's not in alignment, but that's okay. Is your unconscious. This is your trauma, the energy, the past, the mind and body, how it reflects itself, your identity, all those things is basically your unconscious. And we are turning the unconscious to conscious through this process. So that's a whole mess of things, but this is why you're not trying to heal, you're trying to get what you want. But when you understand healing and the process of it, you can better understand how to approach it and what to do about it and why it's even manifesting in the first place. Because this is the work. This is the work that will change your entire lineage. Your current family, if you have a family right now, or your future family, if you want a family, this is what will change your entire lineage for your family forever. Your children's children are going to have different lives because you did this work and you didn't get into a relationship and you didn't have children and you didn't project all of this onto them, because that's what your parents did to you. And that's why this is the most important work that you could ever do in your entire life. No amount of money, no amount of success, no amount of accolades, no amount of fame can even compare to this work, because all of that stuff that I just said is finite. It's finite, because the thing that's infinite is unconditional love. The thing that is infinite, where nothing outside of you can affect you, is embodied self-love. Because what the world needs more of is joy, abundance, peace, freedom, acceptance, and your authenticity. What the world needs more of is your embodied self-love. And that requires you going through the process of healing, not as the goal, but as the goal of getting to this place. This is the most important work that you can do. I can't emphasize that enough. I've been working with people for over 5 years doing this work and seeing them go into the depths of themselves, seeing them cry, scream, yell, move through what they're having to move through, express, and reshape how they view themselves, reshape the perspective of their past, meet those parts of themselves who were stuck in time. Do the breath work, do the meditation, do the journaling, but also be embodied self-love. Because just doing this work, I will say, just doing the work, just healing, going through the process, and giving yourself permission to experience all of this, you have to realize you doing this work is embodied self-love. You're embodying it by doing the work, interesting enough. And so it's a feedback loop, that by doing the work, showing yourself love, and moving through these difficult emotions, moving through these difficult moments of time, having to reshape your entire reality and your entire way of seeing the world. Your identity is completely reshaping itself. That's embodied self-love. And so it's a feedback loop. And I'll say last time, this is the most important work you could ever do in your entire life. Please don't take it lightly. Please don't ignore it. Please also don't just do talk therapy. Do the deeper work. Because by going into the emotions and feeling them, you release them. And my hope is that this video itself has helped this video has helped you make that choice to do the deeper work. If you want to learn how, obviously, you can check my link below. You can check my testimonials. This isn't just about me. This is about you. It's about you and doing the work. Find the person that can help you with that. If you want help, you want guidance, you can reach out to me. I'm very good at what I do. But if you want to find someone else, or you just want to kind of start doing it yourself and trying to figure what that looks like, do it. Just start on the path, because just that decision alone is you embodying self-love. All right, guys. Till the next video, put in the comments what you want to see, and I can make some more videos. Either way, I'm going to make some more anyway. Sending you love and peace and power.